Good morning and welcome to the daily devotion from Stirling Baptist Church, where every day we are turning our focus toward God as members of our church bring us reflections on His goodness. For more information about Stirling Baptist Church, go to stirlingbaptist.org, and you're welcome to get in touch with us through our Facebook page or by emailing us at admin@stirlingbaptist.co.uk.
Good morning, my name's Alastair Ross. I'm the husband of Audrey Ross, the church secretary. You'll probably know Audrey better than you'll know me. We live in Uplifted and have been coming to Stirling Baptist Church for 7 or 8 years or so. We moved to Uplifted a couple of years back, formerly lived in Doon, and we moved because our children, Mark and Bethany, live in or around the Uplifted area. And we came to help support them and principally to help with child care with our grandchildren. Those of you who are grandparents will know one of the great hardships of the current situation is not being able to see your grandchildren, pick them up and give them a hug as much as you used to, if at all. And that's been difficult. David asked me to do one of these daily devotionals. And I was happy to do that, and when he asked me, I thought that I would read from the book of Ephesians, from Paul's letter to the church in Ephesus, and I'm reading in chapter 2 from verse 1. And you he made alive, who were dead in trespasses and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience, among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lusts of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, just as the others. But God, who is rich in mercy because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in trespasses, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised us up together, and made us sit together in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus, that in the ages to come he might show the exceeding riches of his grace in his kindness towards us in Christ Jesus. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, lest anyone should boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. I thought of that passage principally because a number of years back I read an article. I think actually it was an extract from this article that was referred to in one of the devotionals that I was reading at the time. And it was titled, "The Two Most Important Words in the Bible." And the two words that it was talking about are those two words that appear at the beginning of verse 4, but God. And the context obviously is in relation to the Ephesians before they came to faith, and how before then they lived in the control of the devil, essentially. They were obeying the lusts of the flesh and of the mind. They were caught up in sin and wrongdoing, and then they came to faith because God called them to that, and that's the but God that's really been referred to in that passage. And I guess we can probably all, or at least some of us, relate to what that was like, how we lived before we came to faith and how after we came to faith our lives changed so dramatically. But probably more of us, and I suspect maybe even all of us, can relate to the but God moments that have happened since we came to faith. We'll all have had times of difficulty. We'll all have had times of stress or anxiety or worry about our families, about our jobs, about so many different things. And we'll have had moments when God has just done something miraculous, has just stepped in and made us really aware of his presence, and those are the but God moments that we hold on to as we live our lives. You know, I'm a Presbyterian at heart. I'm not a Baptist, And one of the things that I remember from my days in the Church of Scotland, where we grew up, and where I was greatly involved in presbytery meetings and so on. But one of the things I always remember is the reference that was made to the Westminster Confession of Faith. And there's a particular part of that I've referred to a lot over the years. In fact, I'm so sad that I still read it in its entirety the first week of every month. But chapter 2 of the Westminster Confession is entitled Of God and of the Holy Trinity. And I'm just going to read a small excerpt from that, the first paragraph really of that chapter. And it says this: "There is but one only living and true God, who is infinite in being and perfection, a most pure spirit, invisible, without body, parts or passions, immutable, immense, eternal, incomprehensible, almighty, most wise, most holy, most free, most absolute, working all things according to the counsel of his own immutable and most righteous will, for his own glory, most loving, gracious, merciful, long-suffering, abundant in goodness and truth, forgiving iniquity, transgression and sin, the rewarder of them that diligently seek him, and withal most just and terrible in his judgments, hating all sin, and who will by no means clear the guilty." I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about that passage that I read from Ephesians, and we all at the moment have particular stresses and strains, particular worries. It might be about family who are ill, it might be about our jobs, our businesses, our careers, it might be about our friends and neighbours in our local community or within the church context. And these worries are real, and they're personal, and they really impact on us. But God, the God that Paul wrote about in Ephesians, in the letter to the church at Ephesus there, the God that the authors of the Westminster Confession wrote about in that paragraph that I read, is the same God that we believe in. He's the same God that will help us and support us. He is faithful and he is true, and he will never let us down. So if you're having any of those feelings of anxiety or concern, then please remember these two most important words from the Bible: but God.